In the next several weeks, the Massachusetts Parole Board will decide whether 43-year-old Rod Matthews should be go free or remain in prison where he's been since the mid-'80s. Matthews, as I said, was 14 when he lured Sean Willett into the woods in Canton, where he killed the classmate with a baseball bat. Matthews was tried as an adult, the first time ever for a juvenile in the state, and convicted of second-degree murder. Now, he says he's a different person. And at his third parole hearing yesterday, he asked for his release and detailed his crime and what he says is his remorse over it.
I want to take this moment to tell you all how deeply sorry I am for taking Sean's life. I hit him in the back of the head. He collapsed to the ground. He had cried out for help. And I hit him in the head again. You know, as sick as it sounds right now, to prove that I could murder him.
Those tears, however, did little to move the mother of Matthew's victim. Outside the court, Jeannie Quinn spoke with the reporters.
That was crocodile. I was going to give him my tissue. I don't believe a leopard can change its spots. The first time he gets the urge, he's going to kill again.
We invited Sean's mother to join us tonight. She declined, but with me now are two others who also testified at yesterday's hearing. James Allen Fox is a professor of criminology, law, and public policy at Northeastern, also a columnist for USA Today. He testified on Matthew's behalf. Good to see you, James. Canton Police Chief Ken Berkowitz, who has gotten to know Sean Willett's family quite well and argued that Matthews not be granted parole. Chief, thank you for being here, too. This murder could not have been more brutal. Matthews said he wanted to know what it felt like to take a life. 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is. Yep. Why should this guy be set free?
Well, you know, that's how kids think. Kids are different from adults. They may look like adults, act like adults, even kill like adults, but they think like children. At the age of 14, he really doesn't have a reason why he killed. He did it because he's 14. I mean, there were some factors that he was dealing with, but there was no good reason, clearly. But he's not the same person today.
How do you know he's not the same person?
I've met with him on many occasions, talked with him over the years, and I truly am impressed with his sincerity, his honesty. And I've met with many murderers who are incarcerated over the years, and they oftentimes try to spin the facts to their advantage. I don't see that with Rod Matthews.
So the argument, your argument is not just because he was 14. Your argument is what you think the progress you believe he's made in the intervening 30 years.
He is eligible for parole. Obviously, it's not automatic, but eligibility for parole depends on reformation of the prisoner.
Understood.
He has not had problems in prison. He has no fights over 30 years. He's been through programs.
Got it.
He's a model prisoner. He deserves a second chance. Now, that said, this was a horrible crime. Absolutely.
I got to hold it.
That's not the only factor.
Understood. Chief, what did you testify to yesterday? What did you say at the hearing?
I think that Rod is a predator. I think he's a sadistical, diabolical murderer. I have to disagree with Dr. Fox when I hear him say that, you know, it wasn't an adult crime. This wasn't a crime of impulsiveness. He planned it out. In fact, it was supposed to be another day. It was a snow day. He didn't do it. He borrowed a bat. He thought it out so clearly that he actually had poor Sean walk in front of him and walked in his own footsteps so he wouldn't be detected. He borrowed a bat. He came back to the friend's house and he told them what he had done. Over the next 3 weeks, he took 2 kids back to see the body. You know, to me, it was well planned out. It was not impulsive, like stealing a candy bar as a 14-year-old kid
I understand.
might do.
So let's assume, for argument's sake here, Chief, that every single thing you say is right about the crime 30 years ago. Do you know anything about Matthews in the intervening 30 years? Again, assuming that everything you say, the brutality of it, the callousness of it, the intention of it, is all true. Do you know anything about him in the intervening 30 years?
Yeah, I know what people have testified about. I know what I've
No violence in jail, from what I understand. No offenses.
That's not uncommon to have no violence in jail. You're in a prison situation. So I'm not. It's like when I've testified at other parole hearings when they say he is abstained from drugs, alcohol, and sexual relations. He's in prison. Of course
Chief, let me stay with you just for a second.
Yeah.
You've gotten to know the family quite well, I know. And when my colleague spoke to Sean Willett's mother today, she said essentially you speak for the family. She said words that were very interesting to me. I forgive him for my own sake, because I got to be free of this, is what she said. But he should never be released. Is there anything in her estimation, or the family's estimation, Matthews can do while in jail that would merit his release, or is her view is no matter what he does, he should rot in the can until he dies there?
Jeannie and I spoke about this at length, and what she said yesterday was, I forgive, but I don't forget. And she thinks
So that means never.
I don't know about never. I can't talk for her. But I can say that, she's worried about Rod getting out and doing the same thing to another family. And she knows what it's been to her family. She knows what it's been. And I know what it's been to our town. I know what it's been to our department. I know what it's been to the community.
We got it.
The term sociopath is often thrown around in this case, but
Did
actually...
you ever use that to describe him?
No, actually, you're not supposed to use that prior to the age of 16
Okay.
because some of the characteristics of true sociopaths are very similar to what teenagers are like. Lack of empathy, lack of remorse, not thinking about long-term consequences. So sometimes kids age 14 years old do things without thinking. Now, as far as the planning, in certain respects, it's easier for a kid to plan because he's not dealing with the same level of emotions. It's a very shallow emotions, but lots of kids are pretty shallow and self-centered. In some respects, it's easier for him. But he's not the same person today.
Go ahead, Chief.
Right, he's not the same person. I'll agree with you there. But that's because he's been in jail. And the other thing is, he had 5 opportunities for police officers that came to his house, detectives, seasoned detectives, to question him, and he didn't break. That's very unusual for a 14-year-old, and you have to admit that. And I've been around for 24 years. I have not seen that in any other case. In fact, we're going through a sexual assault case now. When we interviewed the kids, they all started to talk because that's what 14-year-olds do.
James, you tried to deliver a letter, from what I understand, from Rod Matthews to Jeannie Quinn, the mother of Sean Millett. Why and what was he intending to say?
One of the programs that he was participating in involved writing letters to your victim's family. And he wrote basically a very heartfelt letter. Now, he was not permitted to send it to her, so he sent it to me and said, would you ask Jeannie Quinn, because I was on good terms with both families. I've known both families for 30 years. Ask her if she'd read the letter. And so I called Jeannie and I explained that Rod had sent a letter on, do you want to read it? And she said no. That's all. Was not trying to manipulate anyone. Wasn't trying to intimidate or anyone at all. It was an apology.
Can we step back from this just for a second? Should people this young, no matter what, the law, Eddie O'Brien, everybody remembers the case. Eddie O'Brien, the Somerville kid, 15, I think, years old, huge, as big as I am, murdered Janet Dowling, his next door neighbor's mother, by stabbing her 90-some times. Based on the Supreme Court decision, say there can't be mandatory life without parole, and based on the SJC decision, there can't even be discretionary life without parole. You have to be able to have a hearing. At some point, he's going to have a hearing. That's what led to the change in the law. 20 years after the fact, was it right to change the law? Should we be trying automatically 14 and 15-year-old kids as murderers? I'm not saying a court couldn't decide to do it, but should we automatically try every 14 and 15-year-old who has killed somebody else as an adult, Chief?
How many have we done? How many
I
have
don't
we
know
done
how
in
many.
Massachusetts? Not
Whatever
many.
the number is.
Not many. It's very.
But it's automatic. Should it be automatic?
We had
It's very-
69 teenagers, people in prison for life without parole, who committed a crime as a 14, 15, or 16-year-old.
How many murderers, though?
That's
It's
murder.
very-
That's murder.
But
Yeah.
should
That's
they?
murder.
But should it be automatic, or should there at least be discretion at the charging time, where a judge says, when hearing from the
Yeah,
prosecution,
that would be up to the district attorney.
But it's not now.
Not the.
It's automatic
yeah,
now. It's
but-
automatic.
but
It's
I'm
automatic.
saying that's a question to ask the District
Okay.
Attorneys Association, not Chief of Police. If you ask me if Eddie O'Brien, someone that was that savagely, would do that to another human being, if you ask me the Rod Matthews that would hit another kid a 14-year-old over the head, leave him for dead, for the animals to eat in the woods for 3 weeks, no.
do you know the
think
Matthews
that's-
family too from town?
No.
You don't know them?
No, they had moved out before I got there.
Last thing for you, if I can, let's just end on Eddie O'Brien, because that's the highest profile case, maybe other than Sean's case, that people know. Let's assume his record. I have no idea what it's been like in jail. Let's assume he is as violation-free as you say Rod Matthews has been for the past 30 years. He stabbed his next-door neighbor's mother 97
Absolutely.
times. Would you make the same argument here? It's been 20 years.
Not just based on lack of disciplinary problems in prison. It's also the reports by psychologists and the evaluations.
If they said he had reformed and he wouldn't do this kind of thing again, you'd make
and
that
there's a certain
case?
measure of, no, like Rod Matthews has been in for 30 years, which is, by the way, greater than average
I know that.
time
I know that.
for even for murder. So as long as there was a sufficiently lengthy period of time to satisfy justice, and there was clear evidence that the person is different than they were when they were a teenager.
answer would be yes, thank
Yes, yes. And as far as
Quickly,
Massachusetts, by the way, had the strictest law for juvenile homicide in the entire United States.
that.
All kids, tried as adults, automatically, all got life without parole automatically before the Miller case.
James, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Chief, it's good to meet you. I really
nice to
appreciate
see
you
you,
being
too.
here. Thank you so much.